Tonight, the so-called Queen of Canada faces a judge in Swift Current. The federal government announces millions to bolster Canada's canola industry, and how a partnership involving a Saskatchewan food bank is filling stomachs across the country.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, September 5th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. A cult leader at the center of an RCMP raid in southwestern Saskatchewan appeared in court Friday. Romana Didalo was charged by RCMP on Thursday. Alexander Kwan has our top story.
The woman who calls herself the Queen of Canada arrived at the Swift Current courthouse wearing a blue suit with cuffs on her wrists and ankles. Romana Didalo was smiling as she delivered a simple message.
Remember, innocent until proven guilty.
The cult leader was one of 16 people arrested by the RCMP after a raid at a former school in Richmond earlier this week. Although all 16 were released without charges, Didalo and Ricky Mans, who owns the compound in Richmond, were quickly rearrested. RCMP say they violated a condition not to contact each other. Didalo is also facing a count of intimidation of a justice participant. That's tied to an investigation from earlier this year. A professor who researches cults says this is uncharted territory for Didalo and her followers.
This is the most trouble I can remember her getting in. So in some ways, I'm not 100% sure how to predict how she will act, because this is a very serious thing.
Didalo claims to be the supreme ruler of Canada and believes that laws don't apply to her or her followers. That appears to be why she argued with the judge during her appearance in court Friday, demanding to be released and refusing to recognize his authority.
What we see by and large from the group is an amazing ability to rationalize everything that happens, to come up with essentially an alternative excuse or reason that allows them to continue to believe in things that go very much against reality.
One woman who attended court on Friday and has had her own run-ins with the cult says she wants Didalo to be punished.
My heart goes out to the people of Richmond. Yeah. When I felt that level of terror just driving around in the vehicle, what do the people that live there 24/7 feel?
Didalo and Mans are set to return to court on Monday for a bail hearing. The so-called Queen of Canada says she plans to represent herself. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is rolling out a series of new measures to help Canadian industries hit hard by tariffs. That includes $370 million for the canola industry. It comes after punishing tariffs by China on Canadian canola. Ottawa is offering up incentives for biofuel production, and it is increasing the amount farmers can receive in interest-free advances to $500,000. Sask Oilseeds says better credit does buy farmers time, but it doesn't eliminate the problem.
From what I've heard from farmers, that loans are not really the way to, I guess we can't borrow our way out of this crisis. It really does need to be resolved at a political level. Farmers want to be, receiving their paycheck from the marketplace.
The province says it is pleased to see financial support for canola producers, but its focus remains on the removal of Chinese tariffs on canola. Carney is also pausing the Fed's 2026 electric vehicle targets and launching a review into the overall mandates. But as Evan Dyer reports, not everyone is happy with that measure.
We have an auto sector, because of the massive change in U.S. trade policy, is under extreme pressure.
Mark Carney says tariffs have changed the situation for Canadian automakers, who are going to face a mandate next year requiring them to make at least 1 in 5 cars they sell electric.
They've got enough on their plate right now, so we're taking that off.
Carney says the mandate will be put on pause while the government conducts a 60-day review. Car makers won't have to meet the quota next year. Environmentalists say it's a disappointment.
We're worried. We don't really know what the extent of the review is going to be. And to be honest, we don't have a clear indication of the extent to which this government, under Prime Minister Mark Carney, remains committed to fighting climate change.
The auto industry, on the other hand, says pressure from south of the border made the change necessary.
We need the White House to change course. We need to invest in ourselves. I'm glad that we punted right now, but I'm also glad that we're still committed to it.
But not everyone is convinced the industry really is that committed, pointing to the fact that a maker like Ford hasn't brought a new electric model to the North American market in 4 years.
If you're serious about selling electric vehicles, you should be introducing models, right? And they have it. Now, in the meantime, they've introduced several models in Europe, the Explorer in particular, which I think would sell really well here. But they're selling in Europe, not here.
Lurie says that if the big three won't step up and the Trump administration is determined to go backwards, Canadians should have other options.
The mandate should remain, but the other thing that I think they should do is lower the tariffs on Chinese vehicles.
But the Canadian industry says Chinese car makers add nothing to the Canadian economy.
I think any loosening of the tariff for the Chinese has to come with an opportunity for Canadian suppliers or minerals and raw materials or dealers or Canadian workers. Right now, that's not the prospect.
2 provinces, Quebec and British Columbia, still have EV mandates on the books, but the federal and provincial rebates that once encouraged buyers are mostly gone. The federal government says it's considering bringing back a new federal rebate, but EV enthusiasts say that delay just encourages buyers to wait to see if they can get the same car for a better price later on. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is calling for the temporary foreign worker program to be scrapped, but his comments are not sitting well with everyone in our province. Jeremy Warren has that story.
Pierre Poilievre's call for Canada to scrap the temporary foreign worker program isn't based on evidence. That's according to a University of Regina professor. He says the Conservative leader's pitch to ditch the immigration program exploits a growing anti-immigrant sentiment in the country.
I think you're playing politics with something that should be governed by good evidence-based decisions. And I'm not certain that those calls right now coming from Pierre Poilievre are really based on research and evidence. They're based on what's popular at the time. And that'll be it.
Poilievre says the temporary foreign worker program floods the market with cheap labor and makes it harder for young Canadians to find work. The federal Liberal government says 105,000 permits have been issued so far this year. That includes permit extensions for people already in the country.
Saskatchewan in particular has really tethered its economic development strategy and ambition to population growth. Different migrant streams like the Immigrant Nominees Program or the TFWP has really been the pathway through which Saskatchewan's population has grown, and along with economic development.
Poilievre says he would also create a separate standalone program for agricultural labor. Egg producers here say they welcome a standalone program, but have questions like, does trucking qualify as agriculture since it's integral to many farm operations?
It's good to see that there was an initial plan for a carve-out or, the creation of a new program for agriculture. But of course, it begs the question, what are the details? They say the devil is in the details.
Premier Scott Moe also weighed in on Poilievre's plan. He says Ottawa must focus on economic immigration because he says that's good for those immigrating and the communities they move to. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The city of Regina has decided to make some changes to the way it handles its budgets. It is now going to hold meetings with city councillors to inform them of budget forecasts. Those meetings will be held throughout the fall and will be open to the public. Regina's acting city manager says the new process will promote transparency and allow the public to better understand what goes into the budget.
The budgets aren't simple to understand, and they're certainly not easy to put together. But I think the ultimate goal is if people can say, wow, council did make an informed decision. They did it with full information. Administration gave them the comprehensive analysis of what it would take or what it wouldn't take.
The next meeting at City Hall is on Tuesday. You can sign up to attend that meeting on the City of Regina's website. Meanwhile, outside Regina City Hall, a group gathered Friday to protest against proposed provincial legislation and call for support for harm reduction. The group is concerned about the province's Safe Public Spaces Act. Municipalities have the option to opt into the act. It allows police to seize weapons, including needles used for injecting drugs, and could involve jail time for those found with them. Those at Friday's rally say that would continue to criminalize drug users instead of addressing the root causes of drug use.
This will further give law enforcement powers to go in, disrupt our community members in parks, and then even have the power to claw back their social assistance if they're using illicit drugs. We as community want to make sure that we're clear that we're not pro-encampment, we're pro-housing, and we are not pro-further criminalization of our most marginalized. We're pro-harm reduction.
Saskatoon opted into the act last week. Regina City Council has yet to take a vote on implementing it. Well, the winds are calmer and the skies have cleared. A nice day to take in some sculptures at the University of Saskatchewan. And it looks like things will only get nicer from here. Helena has the details in her forecast after the break. Two food banks from two different cities have launched a new partnership. The Regina Food Bank and the Greater Vancouver Food Bank are trading about 40 tons in surplus food to each other. Jeffrey Tram has more on how the partnership will bring much needed food to people who need it, all while reducing waste.
It's the first swap of its kind. About 20 tons of fresh and unprocessed food were moved in each direction between Saskatchewan and British Columbia, all in a matter of days. It's a trade that speaks to each province's main food production. Heading to Regina are fresh vegetables from BC farmers like zucchini, carrots, and tomatoes. In exchange, Vancouver is getting grains, pulses, and oats, all from Saskatchewan producers. The goal is simple: get food to the people who need it.
We produce enough food for about 50 million people. On a country of 41, 42 million people, where 1 in 4 are going food insecure, we know it is not a food shortage problem, but it is a distribution problem.
Bailey says the partnership was months in the making.
We're hoping it's the first of many of these exchanges to come, and it really does allow us to serve both of our communities better.
The trade was made possible by Vancouver's work turning surpluses of apples and mandarins into juice. That juice was sold in local stores, generating enough revenue to cover shipping costs for the swap. Vancouver's CEO says that's an example of being proactive around food waste.
One of the startling statistics that people don't realize is the amount of food that's actually rotting in landfills around the world. The greenhouse gases that are given off from that food is 5 times more than the worldwide airline industry.
Long says in his 7 years as CEO, he's been able to transform the food bank from 20% fresh food to 80%. That's because of the relationships he's built with local farmers. He says Saskatchewan should implement a farmer tax credit like in BC.
It offers an amazing incentive to farmers to donate to food banks and get a tax credit on the value of those goods.
Bailey says that produce sent to Regina Food Bank will help stock its shelves for weeks. Both Bailey and Long say they're hoping other provinces follow suit and build a national network of efficient food distribution. Jeffrey Tram, CBC News, Regina.
For a second straight month, the number of jobs in the country has shrunk. Statistics Canada's report from August puts unemployment at 7.1%. That is up 0.5 percentage point from January, and excluding the pandemic lockdown years, it is the highest since 2016. There were 66,000 fewer jobs in last month, mostly part-time. Combined with stubborn inflation, it poses a dilemma for the Bank of Canada for its next interest rate announcement on September 17th. And weather specialist Helena Mahalik joins us now. And after a week that has felt like fall for sure, Helena, we're hoping that maybe things will be a little bit warmer this weekend.
Well, Ethan, maybe this weekend, but definitely not Friday night. Things are going to be quite chilly in the province, and this has even prompted some frost advisories to be in place. Let's take a look at where those are in the province. Much of south and central Saskatchewan is under this frost advisory. It extends from the southeast corner all the way into the Meadow Lake area. And Prince Albert will be the coldest of this area, with overnight lows dropping down to -1. And the night before, we also had some lows below freezing. Thursday night, like Meadow Lake and Rosetown, we got below the freezing mark. And other places like North Battleford and Uranium City were hovering around freezing. Saskatoon just above. Most of the province should be hovering around 5 degrees or a few degrees above for this time of year. It's really hard to believe that we've had such a chilly start to September because August was quite warm for most of the province, like La Ronge, which had its 6th warmest August, getting 2 degrees above average. Many other parts of the province were getting around 1.5 degrees above average for August. And in terms of how much rainfall we got, actually a lot for the month of August. Prince Albert and Swift Current got their 9th wettest August, getting over 100% of their normal precipitation for this time of year. Similar thing for Yorkton. And then on the flip side of that, you had Regina, which didn't even get half of its normal moisture for the month of August. Friday night, there is no rainfall in the province. We have mainly calm skies. And as for the weekend, we are going to continue to see a few calmer days weather-wise as we get into the weekend. Saturday, we're seeing mainly clear skies. As we get into Sunday, we'll see a bit of cloud coverage rolling in and a chance of some scattered showers up in the far north, but otherwise a fairly calm day. And as we get into Monday, those clouds are rolling out, potentially a little bit of rain up north close to the Manitoba border, but otherwise fairly calm as we get into next week. Same thing wind-wise, we're not going to see much as we head into the weekend, just a little bit in the southwest with wind gusts up to 40 kilometers an hour Sunday, but the rest of the weekend is going to be looking fairly nice. And same thing temperature-wise, we are going to be getting quite hot as we head into Sunday. Temperatures will start to be above 20 degrees, getting into the 25-degree mark. So Ethan, we do have a little bit of summer left just waiting to appear in the province.
Yeah, looking forward to those warmer days and the warmer nights for sure as well. Thank you, Helena.
Thanks, Ethan.
Well, the Toronto International Film Festival is back for its 50th edition, and the 11-day festival kicks off with some Canadian comedy royalty. Ali Chiasson has that story.
As ever with the Toronto International Film Festival, you can expect exciting, entertaining, and thought-provoking films from not just Hollywood's biggest and brightest, but Canada's and beyond.
This is a guy who, the minute you see his face, you're going to smile.
It opens with a big dose of Canadian comedy history with a documentary about comedy legend, the late John Candy. It's called I Like Me, and it's directed by Colin Hanks, produced by Ryan Reynolds, and John Candy's son, Chris, who calls it one last big, beautiful movie starring his dad, John Candy.
Very much feels like a swan song and a very beautiful goodbye to our dad. And this is, you know, the one last great John Candy film that he gets to star in, so we're really happy about that.
There are 291 films screening this year, so there's really something for everybody. You have movies that will see you rooting for a struggling prize fighter, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in The Smashing Machine. You'll also find yourself rooting for a struggling out-of-work actor, played by Brendan Fraser in Rental Family. There's a lot of buzz around this film being his next The Whale, which was, of course, a TIFF movie a couple of years ago, and the one that landed him the Best Actor Academy Award. Speaking of Oscar buzz, there is a lot of it with the TIFF movies this year. Over the years, many films that won the People's Choice Awards at TIFF went on to be nominated or win the Oscars. Thinking about American Beauty, Slumdog Millionaire, 12 Years a Slave, Up to King's Speech, and many more. It is still very audience-driven. We will again see droves of fans stargazing throughout the 11-day festival, even when the weather isn't as glamorous as you can see for day one. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's Gabby Drabowski has won the women's doubles title at the U.S. Open with Erin Routliffe of New Zealand.
Thank you.
The third-seeded pair beat the top-ranked team of American Taylor Townsend and Czech Katerina Siniakova in straight sets. The duo won the same event 2 years ago. They now have 7 WTA titles as a pair. After the break, what the Riders need to do to keep the Bombers at bay in the Banjo Bowl. Stay with us. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are in Winnipeg, readying themselves for Saturday's Banjo Bowl. It is a game the Riders have not won in years, and Joel Gasson of 3 Down Nation has thoughts on what the green and white need to do to win the battle.
They need to get out of the gate hot. I think they need to put some points on the board early. They need to do what Winnipeg didn't do last week, and if they're at the goal line for the chance to go up 14-0, please go up 14-0. Don't kick a field goal from the 3-yard line. That only lets teams off the mat, as we've seen a few times this year. But yeah, they got to get points on the board early. They got to make life miserable for Zach Collaros, like they did a lot in that game last week as well, and really try and, you're never going to fully silence that crowd, but try to contain it a little bit so it's more of a working environment than you can handle. The more pressure you get on Zach Collaros, the more hits he takes. Those kinds of moments build on him, and that's when he starts to see ghosts a little bit, and that's when he starts to throw some bad passes, as we've seen in the past from him, especially against, say, the Toronto Argonauts and those teams that really have his number. They get after him, and then he starts making weird decisions, and that's when you know you got him.
Coughs it up, and the Riders make him pay.
And Helena's back now with one last look at our weekend forecast.
Well, Ethan, I'm excited for some shorts and t-shirt weather coming up. Let's take a look at the forecast for the city of Regina. It'll be a sunny weekend. Saturday temperatures still in the high teens with overnight lows still just below 5 degrees. But into Sunday, we see a jump in temperatures returning to those mid-20s. By Tuesday, our overnight lows are back in the double digits. Wednesday, we get some rainfall. That drops our temperatures back down closer to the 20-degree mark. And that rain is going to last into next week, with the heaviest rain being Thursday and Friday. Saskatoon is also in for a sunny weekend, and Saturday temperatures just below 20 degrees, but by Sunday we see a jump and temperatures will be in the mid-20s. Lots going on in Saskatoon this weekend with the Broadway Street Fair, so nice weather for that. We're going to see temperatures in the mid-20s until Wednesday, where we're going to see some rainfall, bringing temperatures down closer to that 20-degree mark. But starting Tuesday, our overnight lows are going to be back into the double digits. So Ethan, maybe iced pumpkin spice weather after all.
Yeah, Broadway Street Fair and Queen City Marathon as well. Lots going on this weekend. Thank you, Helena.
Thanks, Ethan.
And that is our news for this Friday. For more news anytime, you can head to our website or our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. And you can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend.